Zane Smith continues to stir the pot with Carson Hocevar. The Ram and calling rumors continue to heat up. And let's check out my newest NASCAR Cup Series power rankings. Welcome back to another episode of Talkin NASCAR. I'm your host, Andrew. Got a lot of stuff to cover here in this episode of the show. Yesterday, I recapped the NASCAR Cup Series return to Chicagoland Speedway. Today, we have so much to cover from both last week and this past week from news as well. So, lots of stuff to get started with here. But first up, we're going to talk about the O'Reilly Series race from Chicagoland. First time they have been at the track since 2019 as well. And Brandon Jones would pick up his second win of the season over Chase Elliott, driving the number 88 car for Junior Motorsports in a part-time start. So it was a very close race to the finish. Chase Elliott dominated most of this one. Brandon Jones was able to sweep in right at the end and take the victory. Jesse Love, Brent Cruz, and Austin Hill would round out the top five. Justin Allgaier, Taylor Gray, Sam Mayer, Cole Custer driving for SS Greenlight Racing in a part-time start in ninth, and then Connor Zilich would round out the top 10 driving for Junior Motorsports with Carson Kvapil, Nick Sanchez driving for the 87 car of Pearson Racing in 12th. Sammy Smith, Parker Retzloff, and Harrison Burton would be the top 15. Sheldon Creed finished in 16th, so not a great day for him. Raja Karuth in 24th. Not a very good day for him either. William Sawalch in 29th. Looking at the rest of the order, Jeremy Clements down in 35th. He had a loose wheel issue. He actually received a penalty from NASCAR on Tuesday for that loose wheel. So tough break for that 51 team of Jeremy Clements Racing. Moving on, currently the Craftsman Truck Series is underway at Lime Rock Park, and they have some interesting names in the field today. First off, Colin Braun is back behind the wheel of the calling number 25 free agent truck. He made a start earlier this year, I believe. It was at St. Petersburg on the street race for the Craftsman Truck Series, so cool to see him back in the truck. Parker Kligerman is also making a start for Aspire Motorsports in the 77 truck. And then Thomas Annunziata, one of the top road course prospects who is driving in the Arkham and Art Series full-time for Nitro Motorsports, is also making a start for Tricon Garage in the number 1 truck. There's another story about Thomas Annunziata that I want to touch on. That's about his paint scheme that he was planning on running this weekend in the Arkham and Art Series race that he actually won last night from Lime Rock Park. He was planning on running a Kyle Busch throwback scheme with like M&M colors on it, but it was supposed to be not of M&Ms, it was supposed to be N&Ms for Nitro Motorsports. But apparently it does sound like M&Ms, and Mars, the company that owns M&Ms, they did not like it. They shut down the paint scheme, so very unfortunate that Thomas Annunziata, although he did pick up the victory, he did not get to do that with the Kyle Busch tribute scheme, because it looks like a really good scheme. It looked very much like a Kyle Busch M&M's scheme from the mid 2010s. So tough break for Thomas Annunziata. Very unfortunate to hear that, but congratulations to him on picking up the victory last night in the NASCAR or the Arkham and Art Series. Next up, NASCAR has announced a public celebration of Kyle Busch. His life will be on October 9th, following the Craftsman Truck Series race from Charlotte Motor Speedway in October. It will be after the race, so it is a public event. So you are encouraged to attend. I don't know if I'll be able to get down there to Charlotte. I probably won't be, but I know many will be there. So NASCAR just announced that yesterday. So make sure you set your calendars if you do plan on attending. It'll be October 9th at Charlotte Motor Speedway following the Craftsman Truck Series race on October 9th. Next up, we have to talk about Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar, specifically Zane Smith, because he has continued this week to pour gasoline on the fire that has been created between Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar following their run-in on Sunday in Chicagoland, where Zane Smith spun Carson Hocevar out heading into turn 1. Both cars got damaged. Both cars finished outside the top 20. Really hurt Zane Smith's chance to make the chase coming up very, very soon. Hocevar still inside the top 10 in points, but definitely not a good race for either one of them. And that incident was the highlight of it. And these two have had run-ins before, like I talked about yesterday. I look at Iowa from last year. where Carson Hocevar did pretty much the same thing to Zane Smith. Didn't put his nose to the left rear of Zane Smith, not intentionally, of course, but it definitely was a point in time where Carson Hocevar could have been a less aggressive, but in that scenario, he was very aggressive getting down into turn one at Iowa, spun Zane Smith out. Then Zane Smith tried to get back at Carson Hocevar and wasn't very successful at that. And this might have been the similar thing with Hocevar, or Zane Smith getting back at Carson Hocevar here. But this week, Zane Smith hopped on a podcast to do an interview with Riley Herbst on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast and had some pretty strong thoughts about Carson Hocevar. He said, quote, "His fans are the worst part. Have you ever seen the South Park guy, huge guy that's like typing on the keyboard? Those are like all his fans." He also said, quote, "He tries to be your buddy and then will go and screw you. It's like, just don't talk to me in the first place because one, I don't like you, and we're going to eventually have a run in together. So let's not just talk in the first place." And the last thing he said, "If you're going to be the guy hiding behind social media, I don't know. That's a coward in my opinion. Like, act the way in person. Say that to my face. I'm going to be the same way, but don't be the one in person and then hide behind your phone." And then Carson Hocevar on his next Twitch stream was asked about why about the Zane Smith incident, and he asked in his normal Hocevar way, "What's Zane's problem?" "I don't know, man. Maybe his T-shirt sales were low. I don't know. Who cares?" I mean, man, oh, this is funny. Like I love Hocevar's response because it is just very much Carson Hocevar, where he's like, "I really don't care. I don't care what you or anyone else thinks," which is completely like Carson Hocevar. Yeah, but Zane Smith really getting personal and kind of really calling out Carson Hocevar in a way that we haven't seen very much. Talking about the personal side of things and not really the on-track stuff, which is what mostly Carson Hocevar has been, really been called out for so far in his NASCAR Cup Series career. And Zane Smith also calling out Carson Hocevar's fans, basically calling them Discord mods, but geez Louise. Yeah, that's really getting after it if you're Zane Smith. So yeah, I don't know how to feel about it, but geez Louise, Zane Smith really upset with Carson Hocevar. But I do like this. I do like that we are getting another rivalry in the Cup Series because we don't have a lot of these anymore. We don't have Joey Logano versus Matt Kenseth anymore. We don't. I know we recently have gotten a new rivalry of Bell versus Larson, but that one's, yeah, it's kind of it's not really turned into a rivalry this year because both have been kind of underwhelming, but last year was really a rivalry between Bell and Larson. But I'm really excited because these two guys are running usually the same pretty much every single week. Zane Smith sometimes isn't running as good as Hocevar, but more often than not, when you look at it, Hocevar and Zane Smith are running right around each other. But I do think it's very interesting that Zane Smith is calling out more of the off-track side of things of Carson Hocevar and his antics, and not the on-track side of things, which I thought would be the part where Zane Smith would have most offense with, because, I mean, in fact, that's what started this whole thing, in my opinion, back at Iowa last year, was Hocevar being very aggressive out on track, and Zane Smith paid for it, and Zane Smith gave it back to him, but I guess Zane Smith still has more issues with Carson Hocevar, so yeah, I'm interested to see how far this goes. I hope it doesn't go as far as, someone gets hurt or there's too much damage. But yeah, this is definitely a very interesting scenario that we're going to have to keep our eye out for moving on for the next couple of seasons. Next up, we have to talk about some Amazon Prime news as well. According to a new post on X from Adam Stern of the Sports Business Journal, he said, quote, "Amazon Prime Video would like to broadcast more NASCAR races, but that's unlikely anytime soon with the racing circuit's current split set through 2031, according to NASCAR CEO Steve O'Donnell." And yeah, that sounds about right from Steve O'Donnell, the CEO of NASCAR. But yeah, that's very interesting that Prime wants to broadcast more races. I think that would be a great move for the sport, getting on Prime Video, which is one of the biggest streaming platforms in the United States. I think that would be a great move. And Prime Video, to their credit, has done an amazing job with broadcasting their 5 races a year. It's amazing. So I really like that. But yeah, what Steve O'Donnell said, according to Adam Stern, is that the current racing split for Fox, Prime, TNT, and for NBC and USA. The current split can't change until 2031. That makes sense. I think that's how long the current media rights and revenue deal that they have that NASCAR has with those four broadcasting partners and the CW. I think that's how long it lasts. I believe it was a 7-year deal. So we'll have to wait and see how long. We'll have to wait and see if that is to change in 2031. Again, we're what in 2026. Anything can change in 5 years. Like NASCAR could suddenly plummet in popularity again. Like I don't know how low it could get more than this, but yeah, things can change. But I would expect that you know we'll have to wait and see any further on this. But it's very encouraging to hear that Prime is very invested in what they have going on with their NASCAR broadcast. I don't know how much they would want to increase the number of races there. Obviously broadcasting, but maybe it wouldn't be more than maybe 3, 4, maybe like 5 races, maybe double what they have right now, make it 10 races, maybe take over what TNT has. I think that would be a good split because again, I'm not confident that Amazon Prime would be able to keep up what they have and like in terms of quality of broadcast with 10 races or maybe half of the schedule. I don't think they could do that. I imagine it'd be looking somewhat like NBC. But yeah, I think it's, overall encouraging to hear that Prime is invested in it. When I heard that Prime was going to be broadcasting races, I was a little worried that they wouldn't take this very seriously, but no, they are taking it seriously, so that's a very encouraging thing for me to hear that Prime does want to continue investing in their broadcast of NASCAR. Next up, we have some interesting news about Rockingham and some futures. The future for Rockingham might be in trouble once again. So, according to a post, I believe last night it was on X, I believe, that the IHRA, the new owners of the Rockingham Speedway and several other racetracks, has canceled their current drag season and all of their other motorsports seasons and schedules because they have had some issues with paying drivers, and purse money has not been paid out to winning drivers as well. So a lot of issues for the IHRA, it sounds like money wise. And this is all via Aaron England on X, who's a very trusted member of the motorsports community in terms of reporting. So yeah, this is definitely not good for the IHRA and Rockingham by extension because Rockingham, they just sold this past off season in NASCAR after it was restored and refurbished and rebuilt back to being a usable racetrack. So very unfortunate to hear that the IHRA is dead, and I am hopeful that this does not mean the end of Rockingham. I doubt it will be, but I'm hoping that Rockingham will be able to continue as a race car track and will hopefully continue to be a track that NASCAR, returns to in the future because I do think it is a very nice racetrack. It's a very cool story. Very much like North Wilkesboro. I'd love to see a NASCAR Cup Series race there. We've already seen the Trucks and O'Reilly Series race there. So I'd love to see it. I hope that Rockingham will still do okay and not very much fallout will uh, come from this, and Rockingham will get past this okay. Moving on, we have some more silly season rumors, this time in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and it's about Richard Childress Racing. Right now, we are hearing some rumors that Austin Hill is planning on moving up to the 33 car full time next season for Richard Childress Racing, which means RCR will have, or currently still has, two open O'Reilly Series seats for full time drivers next year, with Jesse Love obviously moving up to the Wood brothers to drive for their team full time next year. So it does sound like that. And with Austin Hill moving up, two cars are now open for next season. So some names that have been thrown around as of late to drive the two RCR cars. One of them is Carson Brown, the RCR development driver that was signed last offseason, has been making select ARCA Menard Series starts. It does sound like, according to Stock Car N on, excuse me, on Instagram, has been saying that there is a rumor that Carson Brown is expected to move up to drive for RCR in the O'Reilly Series next season. He's driving for a test for them, I believe, this weekend as well. So makes sense. Again, Carson Brown, RCR development driver. They did that with Jesse Love a couple years ago, back in 2023. He was driving for, I believe it was Venturini Motorsports in the Arkham Menard Series full time. Jumped up to the O'Reilly Series with RCR full time and has been there for the last couple of years. Um, so yeah, it makes sense that Carson Brown would move up to one of the full-time seats. And then the other driver is Chandler Smith. And this one's a little bit surprising because Chandler Smith right now currently drives full-time for Front Row Motorsports in the Truck Series, has been having a very solid season, was at one point leading the points until his teammate of Lane Riggs took the lead from him. But Chandler Smith, he's a very solid NASCAR prospect. He's been around for a little while. He's been with Toyota, he's been with Chevrolet, now he's been with Ford. I think it's a very good idea, and especially this makes a lot of sense as well because RCR did this exact same thing with Austin Hill. Austin Hill was driving for Hattori Motorsports, I believe, in the Truck Series a couple years ago. He was promoted to the O'Reilly Series with RCR and has been with the team ever since. I think Chandler Smith could be a similar kind of storyline and career arc as Austin Hill. Hopefully, a little bit of a better driver, which Chandler Smith is. And while Chandler Smith is definitely not as flashy of a driver as Jesse Love or Austin Hill, he's a very solid and very smooth driver. And I do personally like Chandler Smith as a NASCAR driver. I think he would have had a chance to make a NASCAR Cup Series ride full time with Calling Racing back when he drove for that team back in 2023. But unfortunately, that did not come to fruition. So I'm wishing the best for Chandler Smith, and I think that this opportunity with RCR will be amazing, especially since he could be a guy that, if Austin Hill or Austin Dillon chooses to retire, if like Austin Dillon retires, or if Austin Hill is not performing the way they want, and Chandler Smith could potentially give them more ceiling compared to Austin Dillon or Austin Hill. Chandler Smith can jump right into the seat, and he brings a little bit of funding as well with Quick Tie. So I think this could be a great opportunity for Chandler Smith. Next up, we have some other silly season rumors about Calling Racing and the number 10 car. And it's very interesting rumors that we're hearing. But as of right now, all signs are pointing to Calling and Dodge joining up in the Cup Series next season. Dodge, it sounds like, is very close to making their return to the Cup Series next season. Calling is very much invested in Dodge. So all signs point to Dodge and Calling linking up for next season in the Cup Series, which means there is possibly an opening at the 10 car because it does sound like, according to Chris Rice, who did a recent interview with SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, that they have not had any conversations with contracts for next season with their current driver, Ty Dillon, while they are focused on this current moment and this season. So that's a very interesting announcement and very interesting thing that Chris Rice, the CEO of Calling, has said. So could Ty Dillon be out of the seat next year? In my opinion, if Dodge does jump up to the Cup Series with Calling next year, Ty Dillon is out of that seat next year. Ty Dillon, he's a Chevrolet guy. He is most connected to Chevrolet with the relationship he has with his grandfather of Richard Childress. I know Ty Dillon has driven for Toyota teams in the past, but I still do think that Ty Dillon, if Calling does jump up with Dodge, I think that they will not have Ty Dillon behind the wheel next year. Although there is the argument that Ty Dillon, he's a familiar face. He has good relationship with sponsors. He would be a guy that could keep some continuity with that lineup and not change it up too much in a season that might already have a lot of change with Dodge. That could be a good option for Ty Dillon. But there are several names that are still out on the board for Calling to choose from if they do want to go with someone else instead of Ty Dillon. The first two guys are two guys that are currently in-house with Calling in their truck program, Corey LaJoie and Justin Haley. We've already heard this, that LaJoie and Haley could be guys that fill the role next season. And I think that either one of them would be good. I personally would go with Justin Haley because I think out of both those two guys, LaJoie and Haley, he has the most upside out of the two of them. And I really do like Justin Haley. I think he deserves a spot in the Cup Series next season. He's done very solid in the Truck Series this year. Meanwhile, Corey LaJoie, he's a veteran in the sport. He knows how to get the car home and he knows how to build programs. He did that with Spire a couple years ago. He could do the same thing probably with Calling and give them a steady foundation alongside of AJ Allmendinger. And then some two other free agents in the Cup Series that could be possibilities as of right now are Noah Gragson and Josh Berry, two Ford guys. Right now, Josh Berry, we know for sure, is a free agent. He got let go from his ride at the Wood Brothers after Jesse Love is replacing him next season. And, Josh Berry, he's a very solid guy. I don't know, how long he would, fill that ride. I do believe that Calling will eventually replace Berry with someone a little bit better. But I think Josh Berry would be a guy that you could bring in as like a stopgap for 1 or 2 years to just hold down the seat, keep it warm for someone else that Calling may have in mind. That's ultimately what I see for Josh Berry. But he'd be a very solid, overall just solid foundational piece for calling. And then the other guy is Noah Gregson, and there's a lot of question marks surrounding Noah Gregson at the current moment. We don't know if he's going to be sticking around with Front Row Motorsports next season. All signs have been pointing to Lane Riggs possibly jumping up to the Cup Series next season, but things have kind of quieted down at Front Row Motorsports in the 4 car, so Gregson might be sticking around next year. We don't know. Nothing is confirmed yet, but if Noah is up for a potential free agent and a potential new ride next year, I think, calling may be he's definitely gonna be one of the first guys calling calls. He would definitely be a guy I would want over Josh Berry if I was calling and Matt Calling and Chris Rice because Noah Gregson, he's got good relationships with sponsors. He's a very popular guy in the industry. He's driven for calling in the past. He drove for them part-time back in 2022. So he knows the calling organization. And I think it would be a fresh start for him with a new manufacturer. And I think it would be a very interesting pairing between Gregson and calling. At the bare minimum, it would be fun to watch and exciting to see what Noah could do because I think Noah Gregson, we know he has talent. He's won so many races in the O'Reilly series. We know Noah can do good. So I would really love to see Noah or maybe even Justin Haley or Corey LaJoy get behind that seat. But in my opinion, I do believe that, yeah, Ty Dillon is probably out of the seat next year unless calling does not really want to change it up too much and want to roll with the same lineup, but I don't think there's a much guarantee that Ty Dillon and his sponsors even want to remain with Ram and Dodge and calling next year if they do switch. But you guys are going to let me know down in the comment section below who you think will fill the 10 car next season in the Cup Series and if calling will switch over to Dodge next season for the NASCAR Cup Series season. Moving on now, let's talk about the matchups heading into round 3 of the in-season challenge in Atlanta this upcoming weekend. Let's take a look at the matchups. There's only 4 matchups this weekend, and this will determine the semi-final matchups for next weekend in round 4. So this will be a very interesting weekend, especially at a super speedway where anything can happen. The first matchup we're going to talk about is Denny Hamlin versus Christopher Bell, the 2 versus the 10 seed going up against each other in Atlanta. And I think I might be a little bit bold here and I'm going to take Christopher Bell here because Christopher Bell most recently has had the better success at this track compared to Denny Hamlin. Hamlin's been caught up in crashes. He's been, it seems like Denny Hamlin just doesn't know how to race this track very well. He doesn't know how to, balance the strategy and balance hanging back and avoiding the mess and charging late at the end. It just seems like Hamlin just doesn't know how to, drive this track. And it's very interesting that Hamlin can't do that, given that he is a very solid super speedway racer. But this is something that Hamlin has struggled with as of recently. So I think I might take Christopher Bell here over Denny Hamlin because recently Hamlin has not done very well at Atlanta. So I'm going to take Bell here. Next up, we have Ryan Blaney versus William Byron, and I picked Ryan Blaney in my bracket to go all the way to the final round. I'm going to stick with that pick. Blaney, he's very good on super speedways, and even though William Byron has won here in the past in the next-gen car, I'm still going to go with Blaney. Byron's just been a little inconsistent, and don't get me wrong, William Byron can do something crazy in this weekend if, Blaney gets caught up in a wreck and Byron advances. I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm going to stick with my pick of Ryan Blaney to move on in this round. Chase Elliott versus Chase Briscoe is the next matchup. Similar thing. I'm going to go with Chase Elliott. He won this race last year. I have Elliott to move on to the final round. I'm going to stick with my pick here. Again, anything can happen. Briscoe could move on because Elliott got caught up in a wreck or Elliott gets damaged and his race is ruined. I could see that happening 100%, but I'm going to stick with my pick here and go with Chase Elliott. And then finally, we have Todd Gilliland versus Alex Bowman. What a matchup. The 25 seed versus the 32 seed. And I think, this is going to be definitely a very interesting matchup because no one else probably saw this coming. I didn't even see this one coming either. So, yeah, very interesting matchup here. I think, oh man, because Bowman I know finished second last year. Gilliland is just very, very good on super speedways, but hasn't had much to show for it. I think I'm going to go with Alex Bowman here. I think I'm going to go with the 32 seed, continue the Cinderella story. I think Bowman can do it. He's done it so far, this entire bracket so far. Who's to say he can't continue to do it and move on into round 4? So I'm going to pick Alex Bowman to move on past Todd Gilliland here in round 3 of the in-season challenge. But let me know down in the comments who out of these 4 matchups will be advancing to the semifinals next weekend in round 4. But now it is time to move on to the final segment of today's show, my NASCAR Cup Series Power Rankings. Heading into round 4 of the in-season challenge in Atlanta. Things are bound to get crazy in Atlanta this weekend, so let's see what my top 10 is heading into this weekend. first guy up we have here is an honorable mention of Bubba Wallace. Had another top 10 at Chicagoland, but it's been a little bit of an up and down stretch for Bubba. Last 5 finishes for him: 3rd at Michigan, 21st at Pocono, 2nd at San Diego, and then 22nd at Sonoma, 6th at Chicagoland. So when Bubba's on it, he's on it. But it's just been every other week, and I don't know if I can really put that inside my top 10 if you're not having some sort of consistency. So Bubba's been good. I just need to see a little bit more consistency. We'll see if he can get that done in Atlanta this weekend. But starting off here at number 10, I have the 24 team of William Byron back inside the top 10. First time William has been inside the top 10 since Pocono, so it's been a little bit for good old Willie B, but as of late, he's been gaining a little bit of momentum. 12th at Sonoma, and then swept the stages and a top 5 finish at Chicagoland. Very strong last couple weekends for William Byron, and then finished 3rd at Pocono not too long ago. So William Byron has had some speed, so hopefully he'll be able to continue that. We're heading to a track that he's been very successful at in his career. We'll see if Byron can continue to elevate this momentum and maybe find his first win of the season. Down one spot at number 8 this week, I have Chris Buescher. Back-to-back weeks of kind of underwhelming finishes, back-to-back 19th place finishes. So yeah, it's been a little bit weird for Chris Buescher, but before that, he had the last 3 finishes of 9th, 7th, and 6th. So Buescher has been very, very consistent this entire year. Might just be hitting a little bit of a rough stretch, but Buescher and that entire RFK team are very good on super speedways. We'll see if he can rebound heading into this weekend in Atlanta. At number 8, up 2 spots from last week, Christopher Bell. Back-to-back top 5s for Old C. Bell with the broken wrist. Came so close to getting that first win of the year behind his teammate of Chase Briscoe. Very impressive stuff we're seeing from Bell. Now we're heading into this weekend in Atlanta, where he won last year in the spring race by a very close margin over Hocevar and Larson. So can Bell do that again? Maybe not in the same fashion, but I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that Bell can get that win of the first win of the season this weekend in Atlanta. So Bell at 8. Down one spot to number 7 this week, we have Chase Elliott. And it's not been that Chase Elliott's not been bad. It's just that he hasn't been as good as some of the guys that are ahead of him right now. Last 4 finishes for Elliott: 11th, 12th, 17th, and 11th. Not amazing, but still pretty solid. And even at Michigan, where he had a DNF, he was up inside the top 5. So Chase Elliott, he's been solid. Kind of been looking like a worse Chris Buescher as of late, in my opinion. But we know Elliott is very consistent. He's heading to his home track of Atlanta. He won this race last year with his teammate of Alex Bowman right behind him. So maybe Elliott can find that same magic once again with that fun Napa paint scheme that he's rolling out once again. So Chase Elliott at 7. Woof. Down 3 spots from the last week is Tyler Reddick. This is probably the lowest he's been in the power rankings this entire year. This has just been a nightmare stretch of races for Tyler Reddick. These last 3 races, 25th, 36th, and 36th. Back-to-back weeks with mechanical issues. Not good for that 45 team. Hopefully he'll be able to turn it around this weekend in Atlanta. He got this win earlier in the season with a damaged race car. We'll see if he can do it again. But yeah, rough stretch for Tyler Reddick. We'll see if he can rebound in Atlanta this weekend. At number 5, I have Ty Gibbs. He is staying in the same position as he was last weekend. Very good, strong set of races for him. 8th this weekend in Chicagoland, 3rd at Sonoma last weekend, 15th at San Diego, and then Pocono, he was in the top 10. So Gibbs has been very, very consistent, and that's really good to see. Not much change for him. In Atlanta, we'll see how he does. He's been an okay plate racer. Maybe he'll luck into a win or into a good finish. We'll have to wait and see. But Gibbs, very consistent, very just holding where he is at the current moment. I have him at number 5. At number 4, I have Ryan Blaney, sticking at the same position, but yeah, Blaney has been on fire as of late. The last 5 finishes for Blaney, all inside the top 10. 7th at Chicagoland, 6th at Sonoma, 9th at San Diego, 10th at Pocono, and then 8th at Michigan. Blaney has been on an absolute heater. 5 straight top 10s. That's insane. It's absolutely insane. I know Blaney hasn't been, blowing anybody out of the water with 5 straight, top 5s or whatever. That would be much more impressive. But still, Ryan Blaney has been phenomenal. And he's a very good plate racer. I have him moving on to the final round of the in-season challenge. And for good reason. With 5 straight top 10s, it's going to be hard for anyone else to beat him. I got Blaney at number 4, but he's definitely on the way up. At number 3, flying up the power rankings up 4 spots, we got Chase Briscoe. Back-to-back weeks of top 5s, 1st in Chicagoland, 2nd in Sonoma. Is this a little bit aggressive? Maybe. It might be. But even before that, Briscoe was, hovering around the top 15, 10th at Michigan, 12th at Pocono, San Diego, just outside of top 15 position and 17th. So Briscoe's been fine, but these last 2 weekends have been very, very good for him. We'll see if Briscoe can keep that up this weekend in Atlanta, plate track. We'll have to wait and see. At number 2, I still got Kyle Larson down one spot from last weekend. Yeah, and it's all because he had a really unfortunate spin at Chicagoland where he finished outside the top 30. But Larson, yeah, before that, he was on a tear of 4 straight top 5s. And it looked like he might get another one with a 5th straight top 5 at Chicagoland, but unfortunately had that spin off turn 4 and it ruined his race. So Larson, we'll have to wait and see how he does in Atlanta. Again, historically, he's not been very good at plate tracks, so might be a bit of a tough time for Kyle Larson, but maybe he'll luck into one and maybe break that winless streak he has. I got Larson at 2. But at number 1, back up to the top spot, we have Denny Hamlin in the 11 team. Yeah, Hamlin, very, very solid. He is not too far off getting those 3 straight wins at Pocono, Michigan, and as well, at Nashville. So Hamlin's been very, very solid. He's extending his points lead. Just got a top 5 at Chicagoland after 2 kind of mediocre weekends in San Diego and Sonoma. But even in Sonoma as well, he was running up inside the top 10, which is very good for Hamlin. So he's had speed recently. We'll see if he can continue that this weekend in Atlanta. Might be a little bit tough because he's, again, not been very good there historically over the last few years. But we'll have to wait and see if he can turn that around this weekend in Atlanta. So there you go. That's my top 10. Hamlin at 1, Larson at 2, Briscoe at 3, Blaney at 4, Gibbs at 5, Reddick at 6, Elliott at 7, Bell at 8, Busher at 9, Byron at 10, and then Bubba Wallace as an honorable mention this week. But that will do it for this episode of Talkin NASCAR. Hope you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, make sure you follow the show so you never miss another episode. And if you like what I'm doing over here, go check out Talking Sports with Miles and Andrew. I'll have links down in the description to both shows if you want to follow them both so you never miss another episode of either one of them. So I'll see you very, very soon for the next episode. It will probably be the NASCAR Cup Series race review from Atlanta this upcoming weekend. Should be a very fun and interesting race review, so stay tuned for that and more. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode of Talkin NASCAR.